Conversion therapy is still a thing in America and government funded in some places. It's like a religious thing, and then apparently it's okay to children. But oh, I am so evil for saying that, hey, you know, if a child cannot consent to HRT, then they can't consent to puberty. Asmongold talked about me. So he is looking at a tweet. Transphobes love using kids can't consent as an excuse to ban healthcare for trans youth. However, it's interesting that they have no issues with forcing gender reassignment surgeries onto intersex infants. Full video is reaction to Alex's coverage of the situation with Rev. How transphobes are weaponizing age of consent against healthcare. It's a 17-minute video. This clip is 43 seconds.
Here we go.
And it's always like so interesting that these people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like
That's enough. We've had enough. Let's move on.
7 seconds out of a 43-second clip from a 17-minute video from a 4 to 5 hour stream. What did I say after that? And it's always like so interesting that these people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like consent in general, but then they have like takes of how intersex people need to be forced into gender reassignment surgeries, etc., because they are broken and need to be fixed. Then consent doesn't matter. It's just when it comes to like a child getting treated for gender dysphoria, not feeling comfortable in their own skin, and wanting to get help. Then consent is like a big issue. Oh, kids can't consent. That's why, you know, HRT and puberty blockers, etc. is like a bad thing. But when it comes to like intersex children, gender reassignment surgery, then it's like, oh, the doctors, they know better. So I guess we had Asmongold go on his stream, look at a Reddit thread with videos or like with tweets that I made. Sadly, the Leave Kids Alone video has been scrubbed. It hasn't. I just changed the thumbnail. So he clicked on a link in front of 60,000 people. He watched 7 seconds of a clip. I love that, like, he could have just let it play. But he stopped after I talked about age of consent in a video about how children can consent to medical treatment. I love that I'm like being portrayed as a groomer now. Love that they are screaming at me for going after Kirsche. We're using clips that are out of context, but I guess context doesn't matter. When you need to twist the facts to go after people, when you need to like portray them in a different light because you can't handle the facts. Tectone made the same claim about you earlier in the stream. Is there a clip of that? Murder flashed across his mind at that instant. If you read what her post is about, you can clearly tell what she was about to say before he cut her off to make her look bad. Was really disingenuous. He's already pretty much confirmed to have a thing for kids from his previous word vomit on his app. Will never leave kids alone. Are you crazy? You realize you can actually look at her post yourself. You didn't say will never leave kids alone in a gross way. You said it in terms of supporting those who need it and not leaving them alone in a world that hates them. The point is that children can't consent in general. Regardless of how it was cut off, it doesn't change the fact of how predatory and appalling Nyara's behavior is. Nyara is already seen with disgust. Much of Nyara's content and comments are about explicitly targeting children. No, they aren't at all. No one time has she ever tried to convince a kid to be trans or anything like that. The only thing she said is that the kids who are trans should be supported. Also, kids literally consent to medication all the freaking time. This is not different. She, he didn't do it to make them look bad. He just didn't want to hear anymore. Yeah. Same thing. When these people talk about consent, it's always in a gross way. When I, for example, talk about consent, it is to like address the claims of like trans kids don't exist because they are too young to transition and like all these things. They shouldn't have HRT. It's the same with me saying, hey, you know, if a trans kid cannot consent to HRT, then why can they consent to puberty? How does that work? And then it's like, oh, that is so different. That's like lunacy that you even like insinuate that such a thing even like exists. That is crazy. Do normies actually fall for this kids can't consent to trans-affirming healthcare argument? I feel like people maybe like in the center who are not really well versed when it comes to like right-wing talking points are just getting swept up a lot, because a lot of these things that they are saying are they're from a fake point of like compassion. We don't hate trans people, we just want kids to make the right decisions. I love how this stuff pretends to be shocked as if it's moldy, doesn't say deranged shit every 10 minutes. I mean, like, he didn't let me finish to make the point that I was trying to make. Did Asmongold watch you? Yeah, he watched 7 seconds of me. The biggest political streamer, Asmongold, watched 7 seconds of a clip and portraying me to 60,000 people as a groomer. Kids can consent means that your parents have the right to accept or refuse medical care for their child. There's like the Gillick competency. You can get vaccinated, for example, or you can get an abortion if you're a minor without the approval of a parent. Couldn't find the clip, but Tectone, let me VIP you for a second. Can you post the link again?
The on you, by the way? Oh, yeah, I know. I know. This is the person that has an issue with me, by the way. This person thinks that minors should be able to consent
to medical treatment.
That's who's going after me. It's like none of these people fact check their cards they're posting at all. It's insane. It's like, okay, the 2 people going after me, one thinks that minors can consent
to medical treatment,
and the other one has multiple personality disorder, bipolar disorder.
Dude, you're schizophrenic and you don't want to get help.
Man, yeah, surely they're mentally sound. It's nuts. But anyways, I'm gonna move past all this. I can dunk on them all I want. I can tweet something out. But you know what? I'm good. You know what I mean?
If minors can't consent to HRT, then they can't consent to puberty. How do you not understand the take? Like, what the f is wrong with you? Like, seriously. I'm finished and puberty blockers aren't allowed here. Most cis adults I've talked to about it have parroted the talking points of they can't fully consent or understand, or I'm just an afraid parent and I don't want to allow something they could regret. The thing is, like, forcing children who are questioning their gender identity, etc., to, like, wait, it's just making the dysphoria worse. It's causing every aspect of that child's life to suffer. What if they regret their natural puberty? If they can't consent to HRT, if they can't decide which puberty they want to go through, how do you, like, justify forcing them through puberty? But I guess knowing the allegations, I guess it checks out that you want to force people to do something that they are not comfortable with. It's definitely misrepresentation to discredit you without engaging with your argument. Yeah, absolutely dishonest. Some people can't or won't pay for that for their kid. Healthcare costs a lot in the US. I mean, that's like a general problem. How many children are actually on puberty blockers in the US? 0.1%. Like how Nyara actually acknowledges people taking her out of context and provides context. That is just like the thing, but they don't want to hear it out because me acknowledging that a kid can be trans is making me a groomer by default, because that's the lie that they are pushing. Like, they don't understand the topic. They're not open-minded enough. They're not willing to listen. They don't want to hear the argument. Trans adults exist, and that means trans children exist. I mean, I was one, but these people say that I've been abused. I was a victim of abuse, and that is why I'm trans. I am not. A lot of trans people are victims of abuse, because being trans, I don't know, it breaks the minds of some people where they're like, oh, I need to just like abuse you and correct you. That is what they are doing with like lesbians, asexual people, you know? It's just like, if you're different than the cishet normative, it just makes it more likely that you're going to be a victim. But that doesn't mean that you are gay. It doesn't mean that you're a lesbian. It doesn't mean that you are trans just because you've been abused. Same with like asexual, etc. Being abused doesn't turn people trans. Yeah, that's why you can't abuse a trans kid to make them cis. You can them, which is like what they're saying with like, oh, just do therapy, yeah? Send them into conversion camps where they're being tortured and abused until they're either ending their lives or they're like so depressed and anxious that they've just been like bullied into pretending to be what the cishet normative, what the conservatives want them to be. Where it's like a mechanism to like shield yourself. By the way, if you didn't know, this is a petition on banning conversion therapy in the EU. To be successful, a European Citizens Initiative has to reach 1 million statements of support as well as a minimum threshold in at least 7 countries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I hope something is going to like come from that, because conversion therapy is abuse. It is child and it needs to be banned. I didn't expect it to actually hit the threshold though. It got really close to the deadline. Conversion therapy is still a thing in America and government funded in some places. Yeah, it's like some Christian stuff. That's how they get away with it in a lot of places. It's like a religious thing, and then apparently it's okay to talk children. But oh, I am so evil for saying that, hey, you know, if a child cannot consent to HRT, then they can't consent to puberty. It's so cruel. Yeah, I'm sorry. Please don't cancel me. I'm just kind of fascinated that we're at a point where all these big streamers who literally weaponize talking points, political talking points, turning it into drama by making it very reactionary, very emotionally charged, not engaging in good faith and portraying and invalidating anyone's character instead of actually interacting with the points, with the talking points. Like, these types of people are coming after me. Back then, when Rev came after me while I was still in the hospital, I was freaking out. Then he came after me for the second time, and I started engaging with it instead of hiding. I don't know what it is about me, but I seem to piss these people off a lot. They can't handle you being right. Yeah. They're not used to getting talked back to, especially not by a woman, right? Damn, the small VTuber, small little foxo, trans VTuber, it should be so easy to bully me into silence, right? I don't know, I guess I haven't got my place yet. Maybe you do need to call your dad. Maybe you need to make that phone call to get tips. By dehumanizing me, by demonizing me with like weaponizing the fact that I acknowledge the existence of trans kids because I was one, they justify to themselves and to their community to like go after me. If normies read the talking points that I have, then they're going to like understand, they're going to like see how I'm being portrayed is incorrect. That's why me actually making this thumbnail with like, oh, we will never leave kids alone because we care about like supporting trans kids and want them to have like access to healthcare and education, etc. We don't want them to lose housing, for example, just because they come out as trans. They're weaponizing that. They're twisting it into something evil. But when people actually look into that, they're going to like see how disingenuous their rhetoric is. Understand people's hesitancy around trans kids because of their ignorance. But when you dispel that ignorance and they double down, then I no longer understand. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you're unwell versed in the topic, a lot of right-wing talking points are going to sound reasonable to you. But like, if you sit down with someone and you have an open mind and you engage in good faith, then all these misconceptions that you have that are shaping your perception of what it means to be trans or like healthcare, etc., is going to be resolved. It's usually confirmation bias. People naturally just look for things that confirm what they think rather than any proof opposing it. Yeah, that's what I mean with having an open mind. You're triggering them because you're disproving their arguments, so you pose a danger to them. What they're attacking me with is baseless, but because they have the bigger platform, they can shape the narrative and they can weaponize their audience that they have, who are just going to take everything that he's saying at face value. You know, same with Asmongold. His incel fan base is not going to question things and be like, hey, actually, maybe you should have like let the clip play because the tweet actually says what the clip is about. I don't know what's going to like come from this. All the people at the lowest level who have initially come after me are now like trying to capitalize on the fact that, oh, they've been calling me out for such a long time. They've been calling us groomers. This isn't new. It still sucks to hear. yeah, it's recycled rhetoric. Every talking point is like the same, but they still like insist on pushing that. Do you have future plans on what direction your content creation is gonna take? I'm not sure. I do still want to have like my normal typical content, but I've been also like struggling with like how I engage with like trans topics that aren't dependent on me debunking transphobic talking points. I want to collab with more trans creators, especially trans people who aren't necessarily trans women, just to get like a different perspective. When it comes to like non-binary people, for example, I've been mostly commenting about like the situation with like trans rights in the US, for example, or the UK. There's always going to be some political stuff to talk about, but it kind of gets really tedious after a while, and I need to broaden my niche, I guess.